you can't link markets, you can't link supply to demand. You know, आपके जो प्रोडक्शन है, that will just go rot. इसी तरह चाइना, जो ये चाइना पाकिस्तान इकोनॉमिक कॉरिडोर, वन बेल्ट वन रोड, इट इज ऑल अबाउट ट्रांसपोर्ट, कनेक्टिविटी की वो है. द वर्ल्ड वांट्स टू गेट, जो when you talk of global village, actually the global village, of course, one is the technology part, the IT part, but on the other, the transport sectors are also improving day by day. Of transit times come over. So economic growth, from macroeconomics, without transport, your economy cannot function. You have one of the best, special economic zones. If it is not connected by road, it is not connected by rail, it is not connected by pipelines, you can't have a zone. You can't have a city, you can't have anything without transport. So it is all about transport. So we talked of the transport logistics. Logistics, the difference is that we have the storage and warehousing, or ye concepts aa jate hain. And efficient and transport system and infrastructure. It's wherever you find a good transport system and efficient infrastructure, nicely designed infrastructure, a safe infrastructure, a speedy infrastructure, you can say that this is a developed country. This is one of the measures of development. And as I said, a good transportation system, a speedy transportation system, a safe transportation system, an efficient transportation system. What does it do? What does it do? It brings down the cost of doing business. And this is what is required, so that you can, the people in general, the awam जिसको कहते हैं कि उनको चीज सस्ती मिल जाए. सस्ती में सब बहुत बड़ा एक जो the biggest, one of the biggest factors is transport. So these costs have to come down. And how do you bring them down? As I said, we have these different modes. Then you have to decide which mode to take, how to take it, how to make it more efficient. So this is all about transportation then the efficient movement of goods and services and labor. Without transport, your factories will not run if you don't have a good transport system in the city or in the industrial areas. People have to live in one place and go to work in another place. People live in communities, they go to the industrial areas, they go to their workplaces. This connectivity, to shifting of labor and goods and services, it is all through transportation. Then the transport sector की economic and social benefits बहुत ज़्यादा है. Getting people together, getting them, in workplaces, getting them in homes and families, connectivity सारा यही है. Then environmental factors के if you have an inefficient transport system, you have adverse effects on the environment. और इसके आपके carbon emissions ज़्यादा होते हैं. So the fight is always on to have an efficient system where it is environmentally friendly and it does not cause a lot of environmental problems. And an efficient system, you look at how railways has developed, look at how cars have developed. Frankly, technology has developed very fast. Look at how airplanes are developing, and they are becoming more environment friendly, more noise pollution come over here, and people are going towards it. Technology, a lot of research is going on, a lot of investment is going on for bringing in these new technologies so that these factors can be looked at. And environmental factor is one of the most important factor. In all these big projects of transport, environment, then the environment protection agencies, they have nowadays they have a very important role to play. And without them, you can't have a project, in fact. So they're very, very important. 10, 15, 20 years ago, maybe environment ko puchta nahi tha. You just have a project, go ahead and do whatever you want. But now environment is very important, especially with the climate change conditions. And now the world is talking of climate change. And frankly, we have been lucky that people have acknowledged that this last flood that came in, it was because of climate change. So ye cheezein, the world is changing. Then in transport externalities. Now, for example, a city may be growing not directly because of transportation. it may be developing, it may be sort of generating a lot of revenues, not directly because of transportation, but the indirect effects are there. So वो share को externalities, like for example the Orange Line. Orange Line may not be financially viable. It may not even be economically viable. The 2 plus 2 will not make 4 there. 2 plus 2 will make 3, or maybe 2 plus 2 makes 2. But the other 2 part, it is the externality, which it is the citizens of the city, the people of the city, the environment of the city, the economics of the city, they benefit. Usko externality कहते हैं. And externalities in transport can be positive and they can be negative. Congestions create हो सकती हैं. This is a negative sort of externality. To consider the other factors. कि ये इसके फायदे होंगे. Then aspects of transportation. Now these are things which we will be talking about throughout the course. In fact, throughout your जो पूरा आपका जो 1.5 साल का course है, it is all about these things. So aspects, what are the important aspects? One is the infrastructure, and I've been talking of this so many times. Every mode of transport has an infrastructure. Now, the airlines infrastructure is the runway, it is the airport facilities, the airport where parking hai, parking se start okay, connectivity with the road, with the city, wahan se start okay, into the parking, into the lounges, into the sort of vestibules, jo connectivity at airplane ke saath. Then it has to have a runway. So then on the railways, then you have this huge infrastructure where kilometers and kilometers, hundreds of kilometers of railway line has to be made, where bridges hain, usme tunnels hain, usme level crossings hain, underpasses hain, overhead bridges hain. It's a heavy investment. Isi tarah in the ships, infrastructure is the wharfs, jahan pe ship aake berth hoti hai, the berthing places, ports. These are the infrastructure. In the sort of roads, the infrastructure is the road, the bridges and all that. The terminals, public, if it's a bus service, aapka bus terminals hai. You require, then for freight, you require freight terminals. For different commodities, you require different types of infrastructure. Oh, it's a complex game. Then second aspect of transportation, and this is the world over, yehi cheezein, is the vehicle. What kind of a vehicle is required for which mode? For the sea mode, you need a ship. What kind of a ship would you like? You can start from a boat, you can start from a small raft, you can enter a tug, jo saman le jane wala hai. You can take a canoe if you are one person, but it's a means of transportation. A vehicle is, then you can go into these big ships, then you can go into super tankers and super container ships. So this is the vehicle in the sea. Then vehicles in the air sector is of course the airplane. Usme bhi it's a wide open world, from 1-seater to 2-seaters to 10-seaters to maybe 300-seaters. Or ye Airbus 360, I've forgotten now. I think it carries about 400 passengers. Then on the trains, of course, vehicles are, what are the vehicles? The vehicles is the locomotive, it is the passenger coaches, it is the freight coaches. And for different kinds of passenger coaches, for different kinds of trains, when we go to the railways, then you will realize. And this, then when we will be talking of railways, you will see that it is true for other modes of transport also. What kind of a bus do you need on a BRT? You need a smaller bus for, maybe if there's you don't have a right of way, maybe you need a smaller bus. You need a wagon somewhere. In some places, wagons are very effective. So वो road का हो गया. And then similarly, इसी तरह आगे. Then third aspect, of course, most important, my point of view, सबसे important, it is the human resource. And a properly trained, properly educated, properly knowledgeable human resource is the best thing that can happen to any transport mode. If you don't have trained people, they misuse the first two aspects, infrastructure or vehicles, because they don't know how to make good productive use of it. They don't know how to make good financial use of it. They don't know how to make good efficient use of it. So then things go haywire. And unfortunately, because of this aspect that you don't have a human resource which knows how to handle all these things, iski wajah se you see the railways going down, you see the airlines going down, you see the shipping going down, you see inefficient road systems jahan the government has to then put in a lot of money. Why? Because that human resource does not know how to use the thing. So most important. And how do you sort of build the capacity of the human resource? It is, of course, through education. It is through skill development. It is through research. And it is through trainings, of course. Iske baghair nahi hota. Let me tell you, nobody can learn in their houses. You have to go out and learn and keep on learning. Yeah, this is my view, that you keep on building capacity. And keep on building some. At times, when you go to a course, you think, but then in a course, they tell you things which is in an organized manner, in a well sort of formatted manner, and you come to know, yes, yaar, ye bhi hota hai, to mujhe pata tha, lekin bhool gaya tha. So then you flag karte hain ki yaar ye. So human resource pe sab importance isi pe. And I personally feel jo hamari railways ki halat hai, is ह्यूमन रिसोर्स की कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग होनी चाहिए, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की भी होनी चाहिए, व्हीकल्स भी नए हर वक्त होने चाहिए, टेक्नोलॉजी एडवांसमेंट के साथ हर चीज होनी चाहिए, बट द ह्यूमन रिसोर्स. नाउ आई विल गिव यू एन एग्जांपल के ऑरेंज लाइन. Very frankly, look at the infrastructure and look at the vehicles. These are the best, almost the best in the world. It's state of the art, frankly. They are as good as any in Europe, any European country, or maybe in China, or in Taiwan, or in Japan. Aisi, takriban, almost. 19-20 ka, maybe there's a difference, but otherwise they are the same. What we have done is that we have constructed the Orange Line in Lahore, but we don't have the human resource to run it. But this is very, very unfortunate for a country of 220 million people with a lot of youth. We keep on saying it, the universities are churning out people, but still we have to depend on the Chinese to come and tell us how to run this. And they have a contract now, I think it is, I don't know, I've forgotten, maybe 5 years. They're going to run it for you. So these are unfortunate things. I wish we could have had these courses earlier, jahan pe, with the construction of the Orange Line, this human capacity should have been built. They should have a class of people, engineers and operating people and sort of commercial people and financial people, experts who could have run the train for them. Isi tarah Peshawar BRT, for example, you have a look, very few experts who have been actually associated with this project, and they've not been trained for the project, but of course they've been there. I'm not saying that all of them, but I'm saying most of them. So human resource development badi zaruri. Then when you look at these three aspects, these are assets: infrastructure, vehicles, and human resource. These are your main assets. Putting them together is the key to efficiency, key to speeds, key to sort of safety. How do you put these three together? And then you get into operations. And let me tell you, operations is not an easy thing. Most of you are engineers. But then when you look at operations, it's a completely different ball game and complicated. How do you make use of the asset? And how do you relate all this asset to the user? And whether you're providing transport services. So how best can you make use of these sort of assets, the three of them, and produce good service which the people want, which can be financially viable, which can be economically viable. That is, and then in operations, one has to look at the preferred mode. Which mode would suit me? Should I have a bus system, BRT system in Faisalabad, or should it is a big city, 2, 3, 4 million people? Should I have a rail-based mass transit system? Should we have bigger buses, smaller buses? Should we have a right of way? Why not use the existing roads? Now, these are then, of course, questions that come up, and they can only be solved once you have the capacity to do them and you understand the different then modes. Then aspects of transportation में एक है economic and financial consideration. From my point of view, very frankly, this is the most important factor aspect which needs to be kept in view. We somehow, हम कहते हैं क्या कौन करेगा? हम कहते हैं जी सरकार करेगी. Who's going to do it? The government is going to do it. Yeah, the government does not have that kind of financial sort of standing. उनके पास नहीं होता. The piece of cake is very limited. So any activity that you have, it should be financially viable first. If it can't be financially viable, there is a gap between the expenditure and the revenues. Then you say, okay, we will make it economically viable. Or financial में 2 + 2 should make 4. In economics, then, when you look at the economic part, there's benefits to other people, benefits to the city, benefits of time, benefits to the environment. So Isari economics, they can even, look at the financials of the environment. Health, for example. If the environment is bad, if your carbon emissions are bad, if there's smog, as you see these days in Lahore, people get sick, they go to the hospital. That is an added expenditure of the government. We never look at this, but it is an added just because of transport. The smog being created by certain factories or the road or whatever. So these are things economic. And then iske baad ek cheez hai, it should be socially viable. The society should accept it as such. Yes, we are spending 100 rupees, we are getting back 60, 40 we are willing to give from our own pockets. The government says, okay, I'll give it because it has an economic benefit, which is more than the 100 rupees that we are spending. Then in transportation, traffic is a very, very important thing. Traffic forecasting. You want say a bullet train from Peshawar to Karachi. Very good. I also want it. Everyone wants it. But then who are going to travel? Who are the people in the country who the nature of traffic kya hai? You have those people who are going to travel in that high-speed train and pay for it. I personally feel कि आज कल नहीं है हमारे पास. You don't have that kind of a capacity to cater for high-speed trains. They're very expensive. So nature of traffic. किस चीज क्या उठाने? What kind of goods are you carrying? What kind of volumes are you carrying? For that, then they sort of transform into major decisions. आपने जो लेने होते हैं. Why do I say major? Because each one of them is very expensive. And if you go wrong in the traffic part, and there is no traffic, and you're planning for something just because it looks good, you've had it, and the country has had it. Again, I'll revert to ML1, where ML1, why ML1? Why upgradation of ML1? Why spend $8-9 billion on this? Because the traffic is there, the volumes of freight traffic are there, the traffic forecast by independent sort of bodies like institutions like the Asian Development Bank, the World Bank, the Chinese, they think that the volumes of traffic, of freight traffic that will move by ML1 by 2025 are more than sufficient to get back this expenditure of 8-9 billion rupees within 9 to 10 to 12 years. So good enough, why not? And then so traffic is a very important thing. Without traffic forecasting, without traffic, volumes of traffic, and with traffic then is related revenue, tariff. वो क्या करना है आपने? वो nature of traffic में tariff भी आ जाता है. How are you going to charge? We charge, for example, coal. Taking coal from Karachi to Saiwal has a different rate. If you take a container from Karachi to Saiwal, it will have a different rate. If you take oil, it will have a different rate. Fertilizer will have a different rate. So these are all then tariff related. Or ye traffic in nature mein, it is in the nature of traffic that you have to look at these things. I am just trying to flag things for you. It is not that simple. Tariff itself is a world in itself. How do you determine tariff for each of these commodities? How do you determine tariff fare for passengers, air conditioned class, AC class, non-air conditioned buses, पुरानी Bedford bus का क्या किराया होना चाहिए? If you are traveling in a most modern U-turn master, उसका क्या किराया होना चाहिए? So these are things then जो traffic में आ जाती हैं. Speed and safety. This is an aspect of transportation. Without transit times, the world is going, all money, all technology is being upgraded and money is being spent. A lot of research is taking place. Why? Because people want that the transit times between 2 points, which is joined by transport, modes of transport, this should be minimum. Your cargoes should travel, the time should be minimum at a certain cost. And secondly, is my important thing is now transit times, when you want to reduce, you have to increase the speed. And that is why you find motorways have been developed where the speed has gone up. Of course, technology has developed, cars are speedier and more efficient. Isi tarah on the rail, trains are going at 300 and 350 kilometers plus. Similarly on the airlines, somehow I don't know, I don't understand. We had the Concorde once upon a time. I don't know whether you are aware of it. These were supersonic airlines which would go across Atlantic from Europe to America. और वो supersonic jets थे. And I think they overlived their age, 25-30 years, and now they are out of service, and none have been introduced so far who are supersonic. But of course, the other airplanes have become very efficient and speedy. Then safety is a very, very important aspect of transportation. On safety, a lot of money is spent. Just saying safety is not enough. Your body design, your metallurgy of the planes, of the carriages, of the cars, of the buses, it has developed, and a lot of money is being spent on the safety aspects. 15-20 years ago, frankly, we never heard of airbags. Now, airbags is a very important aspect of safety, and of course, expensive. It costs costs a lot of money. A lot of money is being spent on braking systems, whether it is a train or a road vehicle. The braking systems are improving day by day. Why? Because safety is involved. Then the shape of the body itself allows for safety. I am a witness to one accident which was because of sabotage. This was between Rawalpindi and Jhelum. There's a place, a small area station known as Dumeli. This rail car, non-stop rail car, which used to run between Rawalpindi and Lahore, it was derailed. There was a sabotage activity. Somebody fiddled with the fish plates. I'm talking of 2007, I think. And the entire train fell into a 200 feet deep ditch. And you will be surprised. There was only one casualty. And that too because she was an old lady. It was said that she had a heart attack. As the train was falling, she had a heart attack and she died of it. But let me tell you, the entire coaches were almost 95% intact. So that aspect then has to be looked into. Why? Because somebody had spent a lot of money on the safety aspect of the coaches, of the carriages, of the shell of the coaches. So there's a lot of because of safety and because of these aspects, there's a lot of bachat, which you can extend itna casualties. Then on the aspects of transportation, you have to look at two things. One is passenger, one is freight. इसके अलावा, frankly, I don't see any other thing. When you talk of the transport sector, it is passenger, it is freight. Passengers have their own likes, dislikes, their own priorities, their own way of traveling, their own capacity to pay. And they, of course, would like safety and speed. On the freight side, safety is always a factor, but speed does not matter much as long as it reaches according to the schedule that you have given them. People will prefer even slower modes of transport if provided they're sure that it will reach. They don't mind, a delay by a few hours. If the quantity is less, of course, they can go by air normally. So this is the end. I have talked about transportation in general. Now, after this, the next item lecture I'm going to start will be on railways itself now. So, introduction to railway systems. Can you see this now? Can you see this screen?
सर थैंक यू आ रहा है, उसके बाद नहीं आ रहा
जी,
थैंक यू की बात नहीं है, नेक्स्ट प्रेजेंटेशन आपके सामने नहीं आई।